Hello, welcome to our workshop. We decided to start with our introductions first.
All right. Hey guys, I'm Kiin. I currently go to St. Louis Park High School. I'm a junior. I'm a producer for Listen Up Youth and a facilitator. And here are like my interests. I'm a big fan of anime and like musicals and books. My ultimate is twice, by the way. And I really like webtoons. Yep, and like I grew up watching Sailor Moon and Pokemon, and I love food. And next is Aniya.
Hey guys, I'm Aniya. This is me. Here are a few of my interests. Like Keen, I'm also into K-pop and K-dramas and anime. And this is my favorite anime. It's called Fairy Tail, for those who don't know. And I'm really into this game called Identity V, and I like to sleep a lot, which is why I posted somebody sleeping. It's really hard to get in touch with me, so because I'm sleeping all the time. Also, I use feminine pronouns, and I go to St. Louis Park Senior High School. If you didn't see that in the chat.
Okay, so your turn. Since we've already introduced ourselves, we were thinking if you guys would like to go off mute and introduce yourself, and we have an icebreaker. If you could live the life of any fictional character, who would it be and why? Or you can, of course, type it in the chat. Okay, so for me, if I were a fictional character, I'd be Connor. Sorry, that's my little sister. I'd be Connor from the book. I'm so sorry. I'd be Connor from the book The Land of Stories. Connor could go from fairy tales, like he can jump in books and like see what's happening, and he can like live there permanently if he wanted to. So I think that would be nice.
And for me, if I could live the life of any fictional character, I'd probably like to live the life of Kenma from Haiku because he's best friend with Kuru, and I really love Kuru. So, if anybody wants to answer, you can put it in the chat.
Oh, that's cool.
All right, thank you. Um, so we wanted to explain why we chose this topic before we got into it and how it relates to climate change.
So, there's like this Korean drama I'm a big fan of, especially since Unu is in it. It's called My ID is Gangnam Beauty, and basically in this scene, they're recycling. So, as you guys know, me and Anaya are big fans of K-pop and Korean dramas, and one thing we noticed is in pretty much every Korean drama is that they have plenty of scenes where they're like recycling. Like the ajumas would be ajumas is basically like aunties, and they're like gossiping, or like you have like the neighbors talking and whatnot. So yeah, so which made it like it made us interested in general in Korea, and so as you can see, that recycling is a huge part of climate change, and and it's like it's like making things better for us so far. It could be better. So yeah. So as you can see in this scene, they both live in the same apartment building, at complex or whatever, and she's just like throwing her trash away, and like when we lives in the same apartment building, he has like a big crush on her. So yeah.
Thanks for stealing my slide, Keen. So, um, let's talk about the Korean recycling culture. In Korea, recycling is a big deal. In fact, South Korea had a recycling rate of 53.7% in 2018, and that was third in the world. When it comes to recycling in Korea, there are a lot of strict regulations and policies compared to other countries. In Korea, garbage is separated into common garbage, food waste, recyclables, and large waste objects. Here is just a little glimpse of how recycling works in Korea.
I did not know it was in here. Okay, regulations and policies in Korea. So in South Korea, they have like waste disposals and such. Like they have like this policy where the it's set by the Ministry of Environment and Garbage Collection, and like it's like forced upon Korea. Not like forced, but like it is forced basically, and they have to like recycle whatever they use because they're trying to like cut down on waste and such. So it's organized by like garbage, like it's organized at a civil level, household food waste, recyclables, non-recyclables, and large objects are disposed of separately in bins, of course. Following the system is mandatory. Here are penalty charges for non-comp. There's like penalty charges for people who don't want to do it, and also reports for people who don't want to do it too. And then there's like this video, like this article that I found that explains how it works, like how food waste is how like food waste is taken care of in Korea.
Soojin Woo and her mother Lee Bo-ok live in an apartment in South Korea's capital of Seoul. On this Saturday morning, Lee is making Korean fried sweet potatoes for lunch. Some parts of the food, like the sweet potato peels, won't make the final dish, but instead of tossing them in the trash, Lee places the food waste in this special container. In South Korea, separating food waste from the rest of your garbage is required by law, and anyone who doesn't recycle food waste faces potential fines. Seoul's 10 million residents started paying for their food waste by weight in 2013, a policy now in 16 other cities and provinces. Wu disposes of the food waste in bags bought from the city and tracks her food waste with a radio frequency ID card. Wu taps the card to register the household and dumps her food waste into the bin, which logs how much waste she'll be charged for.
At the end of the month, depending on how much food we wasted, we get charged and we get a bill on it.
How much do you normally spend on that bill?
It's only $2 to $3, so it's not too much. It's very minimal.
As their economy grew over the past few decades, South Koreans started dining out more and wasting more food. The country banned all food waste from landfills in 2005. Today, Soojin and her mom say there's a difference in the way their generations think about the problem.
I tend to have a big appetite, but I want to also make sure I'm not eating too much or gaining too much weight. So sometimes, although it's bad to leave food, I also think about my diet, so I guess I don't feel as guilty.
Now that we live in a more prosperous society, I think there's more food being wasted because there's more variety of food as well. And I always feel very guilty if I end up wasting food.
Han Sung-hyung oversees Seoul's food waste program at the City Environmental Management Division.
At first, we processed all the food and waste in landfills. Then we realized the pollution it created and wanted to find a way to recycle the waste.
Hyun says the city used to spend $600,000 a day on food waste disposal, money now saved through recycling.
It actually costs a lot to process the food waste. So we were like, let's find a way to save money. Also to reduce pollution, and eventually find a way to recycle the waste.
The city deploys special trucks to pick up food waste from apartment complexes, restaurants, and other businesses, and brings them to special recycling facilities. This one handles 80 to 90 truckloads every day. This is one of 5 factories in Seoul that processes food waste. This machine dries the food waste and turns it into animal feed in just 3 hours. Another byproduct of the food recycling is biogas, a mix of methane and other gases that can be burned for energy. This plant creates enough biogas to meet 90% of its electricity needs. Hyun says besides assessing fines, publicizing the benefits of food recycling is key to citywide cooperation.
As the awareness increases, I can say that out of 1,000 households, there are about 10 to 15% of households that do not produce any food waste at all. As we receive more support, I see we are on the right path to save the environment and more recycling.
In the 4 years residents and businesses have been charged by the weight of their food waste, Seoul's overall food waste has decreased 10% by more than 300 tons a day. The Environmental Management Division hopes to triple that reduction to 30% over the next 4 years.
Yep, and as you can see, recycling isn't only with paper and plastic, it's also with food. Just a heads up, people. Okay, so Korea compared to the US. So we wanted to compare the United States and US, how like they deal with recycling. Yeah. So South Korea recycling is accessible for residents by having recycling bins, while in the United States it isn't as accessible for the residents. What I mean by that is that so I live in a apartment complex, and like we don't have recycling bins here. It's literally just a garbage like dumpster. We just throw it in there. But like we try to do our best, and whereas in Korea they have like more accessibility where they actually do provide bins for certain stuff like paper, glass, and such, and like steel and tech recycling. And then there are expectations to recycle. So like in America, we have expectations to recycle like certain stuff, but like we don't do it because it's not really like enforced, and the government really doesn't talk about it. Like nobody tells us. So I find that very weird. Yeah. And it's not mandatory here, which is also a reason why it's not working here at all. Like, for example, you know, at McDonald's, they have like the recycling bins, but like people don't really do it. They just shove like their McDonald's grease and everything inside like the compost bin for some reason. It's very weird. Or like their paper straws and such. So yeah. So what I've noticed that the items are misplaced in wrong bins, and or like when dirty food containers get into the recycling bins, which is very unacceptable. So next slide.
So, what can we do collectively as individuals individually in the US? Now, we can talk about how good recycling is and how we need to take it more seriously all day. But the question is, what actions can we take? Starting to recycle may be easier than you think. The first step to start recycling is learning how and what to recycle. After incorporating little things like saving a grocery bag that you use to reuse at stores and setting up recycling bins at your home or work will come naturally. Here are just a few lists of things that you could also do.
Um,
So there's plenty of things that you can do to contribute to recycling. And is anybody willing to unmic or type in the chat what are some other ways that we could also contribute to recycling?
What do you mean by that question? Like what else we can recycle, or what we can do as a society to like improve recycling?
hmm Yeah, as a society, what can we do either individually or together to improve recycling habits? Did that
Um,
answer your question?
yeah, it did. Thank you. I think
Mhm.
as a society, we should spend more time talking about like distinguishing certain plastics that are recyclable, or like reading directions, since each city has their own policy for recycling, so making them more known to the public would improve how like our ability to recycle.
Mm-hmm. And do you know what some ways that we could get that information out? Like, do you have any ideas?
I feel like you I mean, I know it's probably a little wasteful, but like at least my family has never received a letter saying what specifically should go into the recycling, or like for every recycling bin out there should be like instructions on it, like a sticker. Um
Mm-hmm.
and then for people that aren't able to like don't understand like the benefits of recycling yet, I feel like just some ads like through YouTube and such would help.
Yeah. Thank you. And then in the chat, we also have reduce plastic to begin with. And I think that's an amazing idea. We should definitely cut down on how much plastic we produce and switch to something more compostable.
This is more individual, but something if you have access to a recycling bin, which I feel like the government needs to do something where they make like recycling bins more accessible. But for people that have access to it, they can like, I know for me, like I used to just throw everything in the trash can, and now I've started like I put it in like a trash bin, but I sort it like paper and whatever's recyclable. So I feel like making it more accessible to learn about what can be recycled so then people can sort it. And then also with the compostable thing, I used to live in California, and there you have like a designated like compost bin. Like you know how you have a trash and then a recycling bin? You have a designated compost bin. It's not like required, but people like put their food in there, and then like their paper, like if they have like a paper container that holds things that has food on it, then they can compost it. So I feel like making that more widespread in the United States would be good, but I don't know how they would do that.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. I definitely think adding labels to any store bought things should be morely done. Um, Anybody else?
I know I already went, but going off of what Zora said, I've realized that a lot of universities have made composting really easy. Like even their cups and their plates at their cafeteria is compostable. So I feel like um we should definitely start bringing it into the high schools or even like the middle schools, because teaching younger students how to do it, that stuff will be implemented into their house. So like if they learn about composting while they're composting at school, like maybe they'll you know go to their community garden and compost with their family. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Teaching elementary school, teaching middle school, and even high schoolers because it's never too late to know about recycling and how to do it. Another way to look at this question is to think of things that you do, which already do to recycle. So, anybody else have anything else to add? Okay, thank you.
What role does media play in recycling? Okay. Media plays a big part in recycling and awareness on pollution/climate change. In America, we share and repost problems happening globally. We go to protests like the Capitol. We also do volunteering. We have celebrities promoting recycling or eco-friendly things, and also some tips and tricks on how you can too. That plays a big part since many people tend to listen to people they adore, like celebrities. So, speaking upon this, me and Anaya thought it would be a fun activity if we were to make memes, because we like didn't want to just throw a lot of information at you. So we were thinking of making memes about climate change and stuff. So yeah, I'll send the link and we'll give you guys 6 minutes, I believe.
Okay. The first meme here is a meme that Kiin did, and I'm not sure if I showed it already, but here it is. And here's another meme. And then another meme. These are really good. And then the last meme we have in the chat.
I love that one.
Yeah, these are really good. Okay, and then that kind of concludes our presentation. Here's our contact information, our Instagrams. This is mine, this is Kiin's, and then our emails if you guys want to reach out or anything.
Oh, and we have a little bit of a discussion on the next slide about like, it can be about whatever you want, but we have like starter ups specifically towards Korean dramas and like anime, because I'm guessing maybe that's why you guys joined, you know? But also because it's like really interesting seeing, like hearing other people's opinions and such. So it can be about anything, by the way, too. So
So if you guys have any more questions for us or just want to have a conversation, then that's cool. Otherwise, this is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you guys.
yeah.
I know this isn't one of the conversation starters, but I think it's really interesting how media plays a role in just like recycling in general, where it seemed like such a casual thing to show up. I've never watched a K-drama, but like it just seemed like it was like a casual thing to like help the scene flow. But like in America, I've like at least like American or like Western television, I've never seen something like that. So I thought it was just really interesting how recycling is a part of daily life enough to be shown in a drama. So.
Yeah, and like I find it so cool that when I'm watching a Korean drama and it comes out of nowhere, they're all like the neighbors are just like walking together and like having conversation and just like recycling. You never see that. I never seen that in my life, but it's so cool how it's normalized there.
I feel like that has like more of a subconscious impact where it's like, you know, you just see it as like a regular thing that like people do. So it's just, I think it's like really cool. Like if I watched it when I was younger, like a K-drama when I was younger, like with my mom or something, I'd like think it was normal to like recycle rather than like what I see here. So I think it's just really interesting. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and one thing I love about Korea culture or Korean recycling culture is that recycling is such a huge deal there, or it's like something that they've grown accustomed to, and I really wish that was like that here in the U.S. So
I also find it cool that they try like making their packaging and like everything eco-friendly, from like skincare to like food. I find it really cool because like when I, for example, I go to Sephora and it's just like plastic, man. And
Mhm.
like, where am I supposed to put this? But like, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was in Korea last summer and I was in Seoul in like a very populous neighborhood. And I saw a lot of trash cans like overflowing with stuff. I'm Korean and I grew up here, but I've traveled there uh, many times. So I feel like the older generation is more conscious of food waste and recycling, but the newer generation is like not as conscious about that. But certainly does help that the government is enforcing some kind of a fine or a penalty on food waste. I learned again in an event that I went to recently that food waste is like such a huge contributor to climate change because all of those resources that are being used to produce food are then wasted. It's all for nothing. So I think this was really fascinating, especially coming from or like approaching solutions to climate change from a cultural perspective. So yeah, thank you so much for coming and sharing your unique perspectives with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So I think this is a good transition to the last two slides that I'll share with you all. And if you have been to a workshop today, then you probably will have come across this slide. But if you haven't, I'm just going to share with you so that you have a place to continue the conversation. But you can share, you can go to our Slack channel and continue talking about recycling and ways that we can address that within the US. I just dropped the link in the chat. And of course, like if you want to reach out to Anaya and Kiin, they've dropped their contact information in the chat, so you can get a hold of them. I've already added Kiin to or requested Kiin's friendship on Instagram. um, and yeah, the last slide that I'll go over is one that covers the survey. So please, if you haven't yet, and if you're not planning on coming to the event tonight, please take a few moments to fill out this short survey. It would be great to have your feedback so that we can make the next event even better. But I don't really know how we're going to be able to talk this workshop because it was so great. Thank you so much again, Kiin and Anaya, for bringing this presentation, this workshop into the world, and for sharing that with all of us to encourage us to think about new ways to reduce waste in the US.
Thank you so much, Kiin and I.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.